Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. Welcome again to another edition of the Juice Box. This is the WWE Fastlane PLE prediction show. Alongside me this week is Josh Isenberg once again for a great prediction show. We discuss the predictions, of course, for Fastlane, but we also take about 15 to 20 minutes to discuss the debut of Adam Edge Copeland into AEW. So we had a great time discussing all that. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And of course, we'll be back next week with another edition of the Juice Box. As always, you can follow me on Twitter or X, however you want to call it, at JuicySteen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, juicysteen.podbean.com, Apple Podcasts. Rate this on iTunes, give it 5 straws, and also, of course, on Google Podcasts as well. So, without further ado, here are the WWE Fastlane PLE predictions from Juice Springsteen and Josh Isenberg right here on the Juice Box. And we are here in the Juice Box. Once again, I am Juice Springsteen, and joining me here for the Fastlane predictions show, the one, the only, Josh Isenberg for...
Hello, Juice. I am thirsty. Let's wet my whistle. I'm excited to talk Fastlane and other professional wrestling related items.
That's right. Let's dip the straw in. We got Fastlane coming up, as this is recording on Thursday, so in 2 days. 5 matches announced so far. Seems bizarre. Maybe they'll add another one after this recording is aired on Friday, potentially, but... 5 matches. I also believe that this is the first PLE under the official TKO group banner. Mm-hmm. Payback was the last one solo McMahon banner. So, I mean, I know that's not really too crazy of like an info piece, but I don't know. It's interesting now that now it's TKO, and it's funny. Clash at the Castle happened 2 years ago in September, and people, I kind of was like, wow, this is a new era, because it was the Triple H regime. And now, within a year, it's crazy that we're like, oh, well, it's not really a new regime, but technically, and with the actual company, it is. But I don't know if anything will change creatively because of that. But I mean, we'll see. Before we tap into Fastlane, though, I mean, I would be remiss, especially since this is a predictions episode where we normally just go over the show, but I would be severely remiss and disappointed in myself if we did not discuss the pretty sizable happening that happened this past week in Wrestle Dream in Seattle, where I believe you were in the town for, but unfortunately... You were not at the show to see the debut of one Adam Edge Copeland, who still keeps the moniker the Rated R Superstar because he is a genius and got a trademark during the pandemic. I am a former mega Edgehead. I say former because then he went away, and I'm still an Edgehead now, but it was tough to not have your favorite wrestling for so damn long. And I know for a fact that you are just as big an Edgehead. This has to be something special for you, knowing that he retired, then he came back, and that was great. And then it kind of fizzled out to an extent. Judgment Day went on without him, and now Adam Copeland is in AEW, about to do some great work with Christian. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
At first I was thinking to myself, man, really? Because he has been a lifer. But then I thought the next morning when I woke up, and I was in Seattle for an unrelated event for AEW, had the opportunity to go. And, sometimes you got to be a husband and got to put your personal preferences aside and go eat sushi when you didn't want to. But anyway, that's a different story for another day. But had the opportunity to go, did not go, found out that he debuted, and I really enjoyed the execution of it. And then I thought to myself the next morning, good execution. Why am I not upset, but slightly disappointed? Because I really wanted to see him finish his career on the biggest of stages. But then I thought to myself, he had a shirt before that said won it all and done it all, which he has in WWE. So why not let him venture off into something else? And I think it's very similar that he may not need to reinvent himself like Chris Jericho has, because Edge had such a long time removed based on injury and the neck surgeries and things like that. So he can still utilize his character that he was so good with in WWE for the latter parts of his year and splitting from Christian. But we never got that definitive Edge and Christian feud. They feuded, but they didn't feud whenever they're at the level of what they are now. So I'm excited to see what happens with him. I think he's in a very fun spot, almost nearing 50 years old, getting an opportunity to do what he wants to do and be near people that he really wants to be around. And I think, Dynamite on Wednesday proved that Christian is doing the best work of his singles career. I wouldn't go as far as saying Christian is the best heel in professional wrestling, as somebody has tweeted or X'd multiple times, but
I don't know who you're referring to, but that guy sounds really smart. I'm going to go be friends with that guy.
Sounds like a real jamoke. But it's exciting. And I think, him coming in might not necessarily spike massive ratings on a week-to-week basis, but it gives credibility. And if AEW wants to utilize Edge, Adam Copeland, for his wrestling ability, because he still can go, create stories that have a lot of back history, which we've known AEW not to put together complex stories over the past year and a half, and they kind of rush things. This is a great opportunity, and this is a great opportunity for Edge and Adam Copeland to do what he wants to do, and I think that's fresh, new opponents, new ideas, new creative freedom that he could potentially have in AEW. But hey, kudos to him. I'm excited to see what happens with him in AEW. I think it's nothing but positives. And he's a guy that is going to jump full in 100%. And I think that's a great thing for professional wrestling in general.
I mean, I agree with everything. I just a couple points. For sure, he adds that credibility to AEW. And he is not him personally or CM Punk personally, but I think Edge coming into this company is literally the antithesis of what CM Punk did with this company. I think they both came in for similar reasons of it's a fresh start. It's a new company that's, it's not exactly the level of WWE, but it's the closest thing we've gotten to a number 1A company like a WCW. And he wants to wrestle new guys and all these fresh feuds and contribute. But I legitimately think that Edge is one of the most in tune veterans that is around these days. I recall vividly on the Edge and Christian podcast, which was such a fun show because it was kind of out of the realm of in WWE. Like they would talk about all wrestling and give little insights on certain things. And I think Adam's going to be so valuable to those that aren't necessarily having matches with him. I can easily envision him, talking to someone before they go out for a promo or something of that regard, and just saying, hey, instead of doing this, maybe try this little thing. And I feel like those types of nuances that he can bring to the table to any number of guys and girls on the roster will be invaluable to the AEW roster for as long as he wants to be there. And on Dynamite, he said he's happy to be there for the 4th anniversary of Dynamite, the 8th, the 12th. We don't know what kind of contract he's got, but I'm sure he got one of the biggest bags that Tony Khan's ever produced.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great get. I'm looking forward to this Edge and Christian thing because I tweeted this out as well that wasn't so maligned by everybody, that you're going to get Edge versus Christian, but I'm sure you will get Edge and Christian at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they should go against the Hardys. I think the Hardys should just chill and recede into the night sooner than later. But I think Edge and Christian and the Young Bucks versus FTR, there's quite a few teams that I'd love to see them cut it up with. But we got to get this Edge versus Christian thing cooking, and I think it will boost some viewership overall for AEW. And like you said, I think it's just better for pro wrestling. This really reminds me, and not as it's so bizarre because once this happened, as many people that were excited, there was just as many saying, "Wow, what a step down from WWE." And it's like Edge was in WWE for like 25 years
Yeah.
and decided, I really want to do something else. And it was clear that they really didn't have too much for him that he was cool with in WWE. And he could go back to WWE at any point and it'd be fine. He's
Yeah.
not going to AEW renouncing,
Yeah.
WWE. He's going
And
there as a pro wrestler. Go ahead.
and I think that's a really big difference with him going to AEW, and he's doing the right thing because he's not trashing WWE, just like Cody hasn't really trashed AEW whenever he left.
Absolutely.
Very, and I think the one thing that he mentioned in his I guess Monday morning tweet or Instagram post, whatever it was, where he talked about if you're rooting for just the letters, AEW, WWE, and I'm paraphrasing this,
Yeah.
like that, I feel sad for you basically, and I think that's a really valid point because you want, as a professional wrestling fan, for both companies to really be profitable and beneficial, and however they get there and however they make compelling television for the viewer. Like, do you really care? And this is a horrible example, but and I'm also not a superhero person, but if you see somebody from DC or Marvel or whatever, they cross over to whatever the competitor is. Like, do you
Right.
really care if you're being entertained? Do you really care what's on your screen? And I think Edge, Adam Copeland at AEW, gives you everything that you loved about Edge when he came back, everything edgy, pun intended,
Right.
before the Attitude Era and even past the Attitude Era, really. Whenever the live sex celebration, that edginess that he brought to the product when there wasn't much edginess because John Cena was being pushed to the moon. That's a great thing for pro wrestling, and I mean, heck, even the blurring out of what Christian said to Edge, you kind of had an idea. He's like, go kick dirt in the most explicit way. So you got to just love the fact that they're getting an opportunity to work together. They're loving it backstage, but they're going to put together a compelling story. And I think with their history, with a lot of people's knowledge, they're going to put something together for 6, potentially 12 months, where they're competing against each other potentially. I don't know if they fight each other at full gear. That might be a little too fast. I think Christian tries to duck Adam Copeland a little bit longer than that,
Absolutely.
maybe until February, I think is what Revolution. But
Yeah.
you get an opportunity to really expand this as much as you want to. And then when it's all said and done, after maybe 6 to 12 months, then you get those nostalgic matches with Edge and Christian back. And, my biggest thing is I hope that they stay healthy. I hope that this
Yeah.
storyline provides more eyes to the product and everything comes up green for both. I think, again, Christian, aside from his run against Randy Orton in that World Heavyweight Championship time, this is probably, if not even better, than what he's ever done in his professional career.
I would agree. And just to go off of some of the stuff you said there, again, the rated R superstar, the rated R era, the fact that he gets to keep that and then brand this debut in this. I mean, they were promoting it before, saying this is the end of something and the beginning of a new era.
Yeah.
At Wrestle Dream, you didn't really know what that was, but now that you can see the vision, they already knew this was going to be the case. I love that branding immediately to take advantage of that. You mentioned what Christian said that was bleeped out on the air. Of course, it wasn't on bleeped out on Fight, which is fantastic. Search that out if you can, because outside of MJF telling Tony Khan to go blank himself, this was just as like emphatic. And people are critical of the cursing in AEW, but like cursing to this degree, the F bomb. This has only been done a handful of times, and when it's done in the right spot, it's incredible. And the crowd had such a pop, and it's not a
Yep.
pop of cheers. It was the what did he say? And I also love that whenever they bleeped it, they bleeped out the last two words. He did say go, and they didn't
Yeah.
cut that out, which makes it so much more digestible. I knew what he said immediately,
hmm
even though they bleeped it out, and loved it. I was like, oh, I got to find the uncensored version. So it definitely helped you out there. And then one last point before we do get into Fastlane here. Everybody always clamors, for the Attitude Era or, oh man, I want the Monday Night Wars back. First of all, the Monday Night Wars, and people, I swear, forget about this, only lasted from 95 to 2001, right?
Yep.
So, what, 6 years, 7 years, give or take? AEW just celebrated their 4th anniversary of their main show. So not only is it more successful now, 4 years in than potentially Nitro was by its 4th year, because in September of 99, it was not the same as September of 95. I could tell you that right now, or even
Yeah.
in 98. They were on the tail end of that momentum. But whenever AEW came into the world, and in 2019, people were going back and forth of like, yeah, I don't know. It's not going to really be able to compete with WWE, but we really would like to see. We knew they weren't going to go head to head, of course. That who knows if that'll ever happen, because that really would be something wild. I don't know if AEW wants to do that just yet, but they definitely were clamoring for it being great having this competition, right?
Yeah.
And now you get people that, because it happened, Edge goes to AEW. Those people that are wanting that stuff are upset or taking a dump on it, saying this is not what Edge should be doing. It's a downgrade. This is what the Monday Night Wars were great for. It was this guy going to this brand. Jade Cargill just went to WWE. That
Yep.
makes me thrilled for her and WWE. How are they going to use her? Cody went over there and became the biggest babyface in the company,
Yeah.
right? So this is just the beginning. Adam Copeland is arguably the biggest chip to go to AEW since Jon Moxley, because that was from the beginning of the whole thing. But I thought he was one of the biggest pieces, and Moxley still is one of the biggest pieces that AEW has. But
Well, real quick, let me ask you this really quick though.
Yeah.
Do you draw any parallels between what AEW is doing in hiring and giving a boatload of money to guys like CM Punk and Adam Copeland, 3-4 years in, when they're really trying to build up the veteran presence, comparative to what WWE has done, even though Cody is not very young, but Cody, who is still has 15 years or 13 years younger than Edge, and Jade Cargill, like what WWE did against WCW, where WCW was the AEW, where they're giving the bag to a lot of veterans. WWE in the past couple of years haven't done that. They've let people go, and they're focusing on the Brian Pillman Jr.'s, the Jade Cargills, and realistically, I can see guys like Ricky Starks, who is young, jumping ship when his contract ends to WWE, and a lot of these younger guys and these gals. Do you draw comparisons or any parallels between that?
I do, but I think that both AEW and WWE are both doing it way better than WCW did back then and WWF did back then, and I'll tell you why. AEW, on AEW's end, yes, they're signing these veterans, they're giving them how much money, and again, to a detriment to some fans where they say, oh, it's just all WWE guys. First of all, where else do you want to pluck talent from?
Very true.
I hate that argument. Like, what? Once you're in WWE, you can't go anywhere, or once you're in AEW, you can't go anywhere. Like, this is the point of having the competition, having a space for anybody to perform. And I like that. Yes, sure, they've given them so much money. I don't know how much is guaranteed. Like, I don't know those specifics, but when they're running these shows, I think the man at the helm has a little bit of a, I hate to say, edge than the previous Eric Bischoff in WCW. For all the positives that Eric Bischoff had, building WCW up, the NWO, how he got Hogan to do all these certain things, and like how they built up certain things, they faltered on a lot of things too. And that's tying back to what I just said. How long was Nitro the number one show? 83 weeks.
Yep.
There was a beginning and ending. AEW's 4 years in, and although they're not going head to head, they aren't tanking either. They just got Edge now. They're still trying to improve and get better. And I think we're just seeing the beginnings of utilization of the talent. And I've been very positive on how AEW uses their legends in ring or out of the ring. I think they're probably the best overall usage of that. But I think that they're going to go about it in a way that really utilizes them for the worth that they're paying. I don't think they're overpaying these talents, because like Adam Copeland will be on TV most weeks. He's not going to just sit at home and collect checks like WCW. On the flip side, with WWE, you now have guys that, if they're in AEW and they're doing well, and I don't know if I want to go to WWE because I don't know if they'll use me well. you build up yourself in AEW, they'll probably pay you well in AEW, and then if they see that in WWE, like Jade Cargill, they will pay you in WWE as well. I think we are at a point now where not only is it great to go at either company, you will make a significant amount of money wherever you go if it's WWE or AEW. I think there's a lot of want to get the upper echelons of talent to either of these brands. That's why, how quickly was it? I mean, Adam Copeland, his Edge's contract ended on the 30th, and he shows up October 1st in AEW.
Yeah.
There's almost no time. Like Jade Cargill had her last match on a Saturday. A week and a half later, it's revealed that she has signed with WWE. I think it is so hot right now, like the companies just not that they're warring, but just the level of guys getting over, girls getting over, and then whether they're signed or not, it's such a quick, like, we got to get them. We got to sign them. We got to lock them in. MJF obviously has been going back and forth with the bid for MJF in 2024. I'm still not certain he would go to WWE, at least not yet, because I think he's very loyal to that locker room in AEW, and he's honestly a leader, as seen by his incredible. I thought about this. MJF, his character is the epitome of whenever we were younger and rooting for the heels. He makes you want to root for him as the heel. And that's why it's, I'm your scumbag. Like, it's a heel that we want to root for. It's such a genius way to play that. And I think he's going to stay in AEW. But I'm very fascinated to see the next chips that fall. Like you said, Brian Pillman Jr. seemingly going to be in NXT. And I like that, too, of it doesn't have to be going to NXT or going to Raw or going to SmackDown. They can go wherever they want. And as long as WWE parlays it the right way, I think it's going to be beneficial for them. It's going to be beneficial for the talent. And it's going to be beneficial for the talent that is thinking, should I go or should I stay? So the fact that we're going
interesting times
is, yes, very interesting times. And this is what those people that want the Monday Night Wars is, you're not going to get that necessarily, but when AEW is great, WWE is going to want to be better, and vice versa. When WWE is great, AEW is going to want to go crazy. But AEW is also not putting on John Cena and Cody on NXT next week, so.
You got to battle what you got to battle, man. Everything's competition. And it's, I mean, even with the Collision, obviously going up against Fastlane and then Survivor Series, it's an interesting dynamic that the world of pro wrestling gives us now. So I'm excited to see what happens.
That's right. And since you mentioned Fastlane, let's dive in. We've got 5 matches, as I stated earlier. And I'm really not sure if they'll add another one. This being released on Friday, there's a chance that on SmackDown tonight, they mention something or come up with something in between now and Saturday. We will see. I know it's in Indianapolis, so there's always an outside shot for Pat McAfee to make an appearance. Depending on where game day is, I'm sure he can fly over by
his private jet
time. So it shouldn't be any issue there. But we got 5 matches, and if it is just these 5, damn it, is it stacked. So let's just start from the top or bottom, however you want to look at it. With 5 matches, it seems like it's just concise and tight and packed with good stuff. Tag team title match, Judgment Day versus Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. We're in the top of the 4th here with the Bloodline storyline. We're now at the point where Cody is teaming with an Uso, going after the Judgment Day, where the Bloodline kind of, I still call Jey Uso Bloodline because he's technically is the Bloodline, interacting with the other mainstay faction on the other show on Raw. But it's Cody and Jey intermixing instead of a Jey and Sammy. I like the dynamic, but I don't think Cody and Jey take these titles. However, Rhea Ripley has put a lot of pressure on the Judgment Day recently, such as the other night when Dom Mysterio reclaimed the North American title, so he's cool with Mommy. But are Finn and Damian cool? They will be if they win, but if they lose, Mommy's going to be pissed.
I mean, I think this comes down to a few things. I think the match will be good. I think this match is thrown on here not because of the outcome is going to be Judgment Day retaining the championships. I actually think this is the beginning and the revelation of Drew McIntyre turning, and we see what Cody Rhodes has to deal with for the next few months. I don't think Drew joins Judgment Day by any stretch. I think that's ridiculous to think that he needs to join the Judgment Day, but I think he has a gripe, and we've seen a gripe over the past 3 or 4 weeks, that McIntyre just doesn't like Cody, and he doesn't like Jay for obvious reasons. He's not going to forgive and forget like a lot of people have done for Jay. So I do think that McIntyre actually costs them the championships at Fastlane, and sets up a match between him and Cody at Crown Jewel. And Crown Jewel, I believe, is before Survivor Series. So they can also have that trickle over into November. And, I mean, lo and behold, you did everything you needed for Cody Rhodes to get himself back to WrestleMania season in January. The past couple of months have just been like, but he hasn't lost his, the love from the crowd from him. I do think his, tag team matches against the Judgment Day have been a bit redundant, or his matches against Dom have been redundant. I mean, hell, it's always been for the past, I feel like, 2 months on Raw, Sammy, Kevin, Cody versus the Judgment Day, and that's kind of it. So it's nice to see an addition to Drew McIntyre entering this kind of feud between the 6 people. But I do think at the end of the day, Judgment Day win thanks to McIntyre going after Cody and Jay, to be honest with you.
Wow. A lot to unpack there. I agree 100%. I think Drew costing Cody and Jay is imminent. And I would dare I say, so yes, give me Cody and Drew at Crown Jewel, but you know what could happen in Survivor Series? Now, they haven't announced it ahead of time, because I think the first year, last year with Survivor Series, when they wanted to do War Games, they announced it ahead of the time, I think, to sell tickets, to be like, hey, this is going to be a big deal. Yeah. And you kind of knew the Bloodline would probably be a part of it. This year, they have not said anything about War Games. But are you telling me that you couldn't have some sort of Bloodline-ish plus, or not Bloodline, but Judgment Day plus a Drew McIntyre versus a Cody, KO, and whoever, I'm Sami Zayn, I guess.
And Jay,
And Jay, you don't think Cody Rhodes wants to be in the match that his father made famous? Cody Rhodes in War Games would be unbelievable theater, as we talk about cinema all the time. And I think that's a perfect way to do it. And like you said, that or whatever they do at Survivor Series, but the Drew thing, either way, yeah, you're going to take Cody probably as far as you can up until January, where you really got to kick him into high gear to put him in the fast lane to WrestleMania.
I see what you did there.
And to talking about Drew not liking Cody, I'm going to have to channel my inner Helen Seinfeld and talk about Cody Rhodes. How can anyone not like him?
How dare you say that?
So, yeah, I think it'll be a good match. We're still curious about this Money in the Bank. Maybe we'll talk about it later. I mean, last month we did predictions, and we all said Damian Priest is going to cash in. And it didn't happen, but we have a different type of match this time, so we'll see. But, yeah, I'm agreeing. Judgment Day, take the match. The LWO, and it's going to be Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, and apparently either Cruz del Toro or Joaquin Wilde. It doesn't actually tell me which will be a part of this. With Zelina Vega versus Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. I like this new thing with the Street Profits and Lashley. Lashley's finally got Angelo Dawkins in a suit, which is cool. And again, Montez Ford. At any point when he's not in the tag team, he can become a huge star. We've been waiting for quite a long time for that to happen, and yet then they get thrust into this thing with Bobby Lashley. So either Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits win, and a lot goes forward with them, or they lose, and Lashley gets pissed, ditches the Street Profits, or potentially only sides with Dawkins. Maybe we get a Montez Ford babyface turn there. Isenberg, what do you see here with the match, and is Montez Ford ever going to be a solo wrestler?
I don't think so anytime soon. I think they really squeezed all of the juice out of the orange, if I should say so myself, on the juice box, because they did all they could with the Street Profits. They got to a point where the Street Profits just continued to lose because they were building up the Usos. which understandably so because it's one of the great storylines in WWE history. But at this time right now, I have LWO losing. The dissension, I think, between Santos and Ray continues. I think they want to do a storyline, with them, potentially for the United States Championship, even though, they could do it without that title because Rey Mysterio's legacy is much more important or much more, critical, I think, for the development of Santos Escobar than him actually trying to get the U.S. Championship off of him. So I think at the end of the day, Lashley and the Street Profits are interesting to me because I feel like WWE wants them to be the second version of the Bloodline without the blood, right? Like they want the Profits to potentially be champions. They want Bobby to be a world champion. And I know that is nowhere near the amount of intrigue that we've gotten from the Usos and Roman. But what happens when Roman goes away? You got to have next up in line. Roman's not going to be doing, and he hasn't been seen for almost 2 months now. But what happens whenever he's just 6 months out? You got to have another, I guess, group of individuals to step up. So if they plant the seeds and they build this slow and smooth, then you can have Lashley potentially being a world championship material again. Again, I don't love Lashley because I just don't think there's a lot of charisma there. You can't teach charisma. You can't teach that it factor. Bobby has the body of a god. He is looking the part, but he doesn't really talk the part. So I can see dissension between him and Montez down the road, but I mean down the road in 1 to 2 years, not necessarily this soon. So for that, I do think Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits pick up the win. You can't have a stable, a group of 3 gentlemen that are really new lose in their first match together.
Right. It would be tough to just stall that momentum before it even gets started. And I agree. Yeah, Bobby Lashley is chiseled, but the charisma is not necessarily there. That's right. Not everybody could be me. I got a great body, buddy. But I do believe that there's more on the horizon for Lashley and the Street Profits. I mean, we saw it with Lashley in the Hurt Business. There's money to be made here. And I do agree. The best part is that the Bloodline has been happening. We've been talking about what happens after the fact. But at the same time as that's going on, they created the Judgment Day on Raw, and they now are the Bloodline of Raw. So they can and have been very successful, WWE, in creating these factions that have really long staying power in a time where this is not 97 where Survivor Series was called Gang Rules. There was the Nation and there was Los Boricuas and the DOA and like there's so many factions, and now they're really strong factions. They're not just thrown together. They're really strong. They have a lot of interesting storyline components, and I agree. I think Lashley and the Street Profits should win this match and hopefully get some more momentum going forward. And maybe in a couple years we see Montez do something solo. But it's almost, I think as wrestling fans we're really made to just think, well, they got to break up at some point, But you think about the New Day, they never really broke up, and they never had to. Kofi was world champion without it, while being in there, but not really being a part of the group like every week. And same with Big E. Xavier got King of the Ring. Like all these things happened, and they didn't necessarily have to be of the New Day every single week. They were a part of the group. It's like the four horsemen. If you're a part of them, unless they kick you out, you're probably going to be a part of them for a long time. So give me the Lashley, the Street Profits and Lashley. Yeah, well, you never know. Io Sky, Asuka, and Charlotte Flair triple threat match for the women's title. This should be a fantastic match. Now, we do talk about women's titles. I would be curious if they do pull the trigger on Raquel, Rhea, Nia, and why can't I think of the fourth? They had an interaction last week on Raw. Can you
Shayna
recall
Baszler.
that? Oh, Shayna Baszler. Yes. That could potentially be a match here as well, which would be wild, but outside of that, if that doesn't happen, this is the only women's match on the card. Triple threat matches with the women seem to be really good over the course of time, especially with these competitors. I don't know who's going to take this. I mean, does Charlotte become what would she be, a 15-time world champion if she wins this?
I think so, yeah.
Man, I don't know. Io Sky, relatively new champion. I don't think it's time for her to lose yet. But things have gone south, with the quick champions before, and Charlotte could just end up being champion. But I'm gonna stick with Io Sky here, retaining the title. What are your thoughts?
I think Io Sky as well. Good match. I don't think we've really gotten to the peak of Io being champion. I think there's still a lot left, and it's kind of been just And I don't think it's her fault at all. I think it's the fact that the women on SmackDown have not really been spotlighted consistently in terms of developing a story aside from Damage Control attacking, and that's something that we saw 2 years ago, right? Like a year and a half ago where they first came together. But I do think the ultimate goal here, if I had to guess, would potentially be Io dropping the championship in some sort of match, potentially Bayley being involved in the match where Bayley wins the championship or Bayley costs her the championship. I don't think that's at this one because it's a triple threat match, so there's no disqualification. I want Io to continue to win, and I don't want her to drop the title probably until Rumble because, as we've seen with women's storylines, they can make a women's championship storyline pretty quickly. I mean, hell, WrestleMania 35, it was supposed to be Becky and Ronda, and then they just randomly throw Charlotte in there, a month and a half before. So they don't really need 3, 4, 5, 6 months to build something for that on the big stage or even hell at the Royal Rumble. So I think Io wins, and I think it's going to be a good match. Not much more than potentially her getting some assistance from Damage Control at this point of the story.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And I do believe that WrestleMania 35 match just ended. So if you didn't catch it,
it's 12:35 a.m. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. We got two pretty big matches, although the one for the world title is technically the main event. We'll get to that after this. John Cena and LA Knight versus the Bloodline, consisting of Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. A lot to unpack. Jey Uso's in a tag match earlier in the night. Jimmy Uso's in a tag match later in the night, but they're not on the same team. Paul Heyman is going to be in the corner of Braun Breaker on NXT next week against Carmelo Hayes, with John Cena in his corner on NXT next week. So a lot of different dynamics here. LA Knight was supposed to kind of be involved in this, and then he got sick, and now he's here again. We're 2 for 2 now with LA Knight and John Cena interactions on PLEs, but now they're officially tagging. Cena was the referee last month at Payback, where we were in attendance for the Miz versus LA Knight, and Cena gave LA Knight the raising of the hand kind of rub there on the ramp, and here we go again. Now they get to tag together against the Bloodline. I don't see any other way that this goes other than Cena and LA Knight getting the win here, especially with what we don't really know what's going to happen in the main event to send, quote unquote, the fans happy. So at least you get a Cena and LA Knight win here. I just think the entrances for this match are going to be fantastic. Do you see separate for LA Knight and Cena, or do you think they come up with some sort of combo?
Oh, they're going to be separate. You give Law Knight his big pop. John Cena, get that camera angle ready that we've seen for so many years. I think they win. And I think it's because Jimmy Uso has been trying so hard over the past month to be the head of the table and be that guy that leads the Bloodline, mimicking what Roman has done in terms of the microphone and how he is presenting himself and how he's trying to control Solo. But we all know that right around the corner is Crown Jewel, and Roman Reigns will be back. So What better way for Roman Reigns to be back than to address the failures of his cousins? And that's exactly what's going to happen in this one. LA Knight, John Cena pick up the victory. If I'm booking this, I give LA Knight the pinfall on Jimmy. You give LA Knight a big win, but you don't give the pinfall against Solo because I think Solo is still, the one. And it's funny because I don't dislike Jimmy, but you see what Jimmy and Jay are doing right now as singles competitors. Man, everybody loves Jay. Everybody loves Jay. Jimmy's kind of just like, but that's how it's always been. Jay has always been that naturally charismatic, of the brothers, and Jimmy's kind of been the black sheep, so to say. But I think,
Yeah.
you got to look at everything from a big picture perspective, and I think Cena, LA Knight winning, and if you want to do John Cena at Crown Jewel, maybe do an LA Knight versus a Jimmy Uso, whatever you want to do to keep LA Knight somewhat involved, but not actually going at Roman Reigns, benefits everybody, and he'll still be, working with John Cena, because it seems like Cena's pretty much back full time now.
It seems that way. However, I will say that I thought that Cena's last, at least that we're aware of, commitment was that Crown Jewel show.
Mm-hmm.
There have been rumors that it could be Roman versus Sammy. There's rumors that it could be Roman versus Cena in Saudi. Do you think Roman could potentially show up and cost either team the match purely to just get himself involved for something at Crown Jewel, or do you think it's just plays out and we get Roman on SmackDown to the normal Bloodline Roman appearance?
Yep, I think it plays out how they do it. I don't think you need a surprise appearance from Roman here, especially considering, you're getting John Cena at the pay-per-view, you're getting LA Knight, you're getting a World Championship match. I think they have enough, and they're going to sell tickets, and I don't think Roman is the guy that surprise comes out anymore. If you want to benefit financially on Roman Reigns, you advertise him like they do with John Cena.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I'm just fascinated as to how we get to and what is the Roman match in Saudi Arabia, because it probably doesn't really matter. We've all probably assumed Roman would win, but what was it, Logan Paul last year?
Yep.
There's some great matches that happen on these shows. I think Lesnar was the one before that, and I think both of those were really good matches. People crap on the Saudi shows, but they put together these really stacked, random kind of dream match cards, because it's not your normal audience, so you can kind of do whatever you want and really get away with it, at least to the live crowd. So I'm fascinated to see what that's going to be, but I think it's going to be fun seeing Cena get a huge pop and LA Knight arguably get a bigger pop. I wonder who comes out last with those two.
Probably John Cena, but I think LA Knight gets the bigger pop.
Oh, okay. We'll see. Maybe John Cena will get the LA Knight pop. How about that for a hot take? Okay. All right. One final match. God, we were all wrong last month. We thought Rollins was going to...
We really were. We missed the boat on that one, didn't we?
We thought he was going to maybe lose to Nakamura, or if he didn't, Nakamura would beat him down, and then we get a cash in, and Rollins just beat him, and that was it. Signed, sealed, delivered. Fine match, and that was it. We were all wrong. So they're running it back, but with a interesting dynamic here, the stipulation being last man standing, which I do believe means inherently that it's a no disqualification match. Am I correct with that?
That's correct.
That's correct. So with that dynamic in play, we got Shinsuke Nakamura challenging Seth freaking Rollins once again for the World Heavyweight title. Last man standing, no DQ. Dare I say, Shinsuke, I just think that there's more of a chance that somebody not named Seth Rollins is champion by the end of this. Whether it's Nakamura, because they've been playing up this back thing, and it's not an easy way, but it's a way that Rollins can lose without looking. People think being pinned makes you look weak. It's just the normal way to lose a match. I don't know what people want. But the last man standing gets that creative booking of, well, he can get annihilated by a chair or something, and he, that's it. We buy it. He's strong. He'll come back stronger, whatever, and Nakamura can win. Or do we see Rollins win, but he just barely beats out the 10 count, and you get a cash in from Damian Priest? What are your thoughts?
Oh, man. So I want to think that Damian Priest will cash in here. But if I'm thinking from what I feel is going to be the next few months is, Crown Jewel, and then also Survivor Series, and then TLC's in December, or whatever's in December this point. I just don't see
what they're doing in December.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing either, but I just don't see Priest being World Heavyweight Champion right now. I realistically would be fine with Priest not cashing in until after WrestleMania next year. And the reason being is because if you cash in right now and you have this idea of the Judgment Day inside of War Games, maybe it works, but also, does he need the championship for the War Games match at Survivor Series to be important? Probably not. And that match sells itself. And Crown Jewel is not going to be about Damian Priest being World Heavyweight Champion. So if anything, him being World Heavyweight Champion will be the third, fourth, or sometimes maybe fifth most important thing on the next 3 pay-per-views, especially when you have John Cena back, especially with the build and development of LA Knight. And I think if Seth Rollins loses, it should be to Shinsuke Nakamura, because if Nakamura doesn't win this match, where does he go from here? You built 3 months, 3 months on video packages that have made him more relevant and important than he ever has been on the main card, aside from potentially his AJ Styles match at WrestleMania 34.
We all know how that ended.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think you give Seth some time off, which I think he needs, whether he's actually physically like needing the time off to do surgery, whatever. But giving Seth 2 or 3 months off is not going to hurt them whenever you have Crown Jewel, whenever you have Survivor Series gimmick, and then whenever you have whatever December pay-per-view you have, if you want to keep him off for that amount of time, and then he can come back and Rumble. But he can come back at the Rumble in the Rumble match, or he can come back a month before that and regain his championship against Nakamura, because Nakamura is the one who took him out. So I think there's more story there with separating Priest from being World Heavyweight Champion, and then continuing to build the Nakamura finally broke the camel's back of Seth Rollins, and we're just waiting for when Rollins gets his comeuppance, because I think that's a bigger story. And you can put Rollins again on the shelf for 2 or 3 months, have him come back, regain his title, and I think what we get is Seth Rollins being World Heavyweight Champion moving into WrestleMania. You don't give that guy the world title that's created and not have him defend that title at WrestleMania, especially considering everything that he's done, whether it be the match against Cody Rhodes, whether it be the Logan Paul match, whether it be, obviously he wasn't, the pandemic, he was facing Cesaro. He's done everything he needs to do at WrestleMania in terms of earning a World Heavyweight Championship match. So I think at the end of the day, that's how this story should build out with Seth Rollins. Give him the respect in what he's earned. Drop the title, regain it, have that title defended at WrestleMania.
And I like what you said there. I feel like I should be looking at things in this realm more often than not, of weighing certain ways of how to go about it. You know what's coming up, and you know how the landscape is. You know that Royal Rumble's in the distance, but there's some stuff in between, so you could heal somebody if they were injured. I like the fact that if you get Seth Rollins the win, who would be next? Who would he wrestle at Crown Jewel? Who would he it's almost as if he's come to a stop, not because there's no more challengers, but he's already faced Nakamura, and now you're doing it again. It only makes sense to give Nakamura the benefit of, look, I know how to beat this guy. I already made him vulnerable last time. I can do it again, and it's a different match that can benefit me. And yeah, Nakamura can have a fresh match at Crown Jewel. He could have a fresh, interesting match at Survivor Series. And then, you can have something happen where Rollins either comes back and goes right after Nakamura, or Nakamura, wins and retains the title at whatever show in the future before Rumble, and Rollins makes his return there, and then you set up that match maybe for Rumble, and Rollins gets the title back. Because outside of Roman, which I wish that they would have that match, but it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I think Gunther and Seth Rollins is as solid of a Mania match for the world title that you could have. You have plenty of time to get the IC title off of Gunther. He's already surpassed Honky Tonk Man's record. He's so damn legitimate as a contender, kayfabe or not. And I'm sure, and I think that he could, if they really wanted to back it, could take out Roman, but there is no story, especially from now until then. So luckily they have this other title now, so Gunther should be the guy. So you can have that all happen, and Gunther can play off the back injury too. Yeah, Rollins snuck away from Nakamura, but then he lost, and then he went away, and now he's back. But is he as good as he once was? There's so many ways to play that after these next couple of months. And we've said it before, this is the time period of WWE where nothing really nothing happens.
Yeah.
From SummerSlam until Survivor Series, it's really kind of just all the same time frame to me. And then even from Survivor Series to Rumble, it's kind of just like, oh, it's the holidays, we're not taking it serious. And then boom, it's Royal Rumble. You're there, Mania's coming, and you're off to the races. So to have
you're in the Fastlane, actually. You're in the Fastlane.
You are in the. Yeah, well, they bumped up the Fastlane now, so I assume
Yeah.
because they have Elimination Chamber in February in Perth. So who knows what's going to happen there? But yeah, I like the intrigue that we're discussing things that could be happening in the next couple of months when, historically and traditionally speaking, these are the months that not too much goes on. But yeah, with the Priest thing, I don't think he's going to do it. I think Judgment Day still has a lot more meat on the bone, at least until next WrestleMania, because they ostracized and had the Edge Finn Balor blow off there. And then, Edge kind of went away. Now the Judgment Days are even better than they were. And I think you can still take this all the way to Mania if you were going to dissolve or whatever. But there's time for that. So Priest has more time to either win the title between now and then or, even after then because it's before Money in the Bank. So I think there's a lot more with the Judgment Day where I don't think he needs the title just yet. And they're already tag team champions, so they can retain and still have some gold. So I don't think there's too much there. So I would love to see Nakamura win this.
Me too.
Like I said, it wouldn't hurt Rollins, I don't think, in the slightest. And I think it'd be a damn good opportunity for Nakamura to finally break that barrier. He's not been world champion since being in WWE. And I don't know. I was at his first match with Sami Zayn at NXT TakeOver, and he 7 years now, and I think he's really earned it. He's really stuck his heels in the ground. Dolph Ziggler just got released, and he's been there for almost 20 years. Yeah. And he, even though maybe he only had 2 world title reigns, they were very memorable in how they happened, and just like you recall that. It's nice to have that even as such a long character, and then you're finally out. It's nice to have that acknowledgement of being world champion. So I think Nakamura, when it's all said and done, when he's not in WWE anymore, when he's retired, it would be really nice to have that World Heavyweight Championship on the back of his baseball card. So give me Nakamura. Again, I hope that I'm right this time, but we'll see. Any other thoughts on this whole show? Any other interesting, intriguing things? I mean, is Pat McAfee going to be there? Or what do you got for anything else on this show?
No, I think this is going to be a really good professional wrestling show with a few twists, but nothing monumental. I think it's, again, a continued build towards wrapping up in a few storylines and also continuing to add some stories to existing or details to existing storylines. Excuse me. I'm excited for the pay-per-view, even though there's 5 matches, and they're going to give these matches time to breathe. Last man standing matches aren't my favorite because they'll have a body slam or, throwing into the steel steps, and it's 1, 2, and I'm like, okay, bro, like let's speed up the 10 count. It's not a 30 count for Pete's sake. But at the end of the day, I think as we've seen with WWE, and again, the AEW does the same thing, but as we've seen, these PLEs and pay-per-views, they deliver. So I'm excited to see it. I'm going to crack open a brewski on Saturday evening. You're more than welcome to join my mansion, which is not a mansion, but but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good show, and I think the best we could expect is maybe 1 or 2 twists and turns to open up a new story that gets us through the end of 2023.
Yeah, man, this is these last 2. So Payback, which we were at, of course, so I'm going to be biased towards that. But then in this show, even on paper, without knowing what happened at the last show or what's going to happen at this show, these look like really strong little cards. Like WWE, for so long, I mean, I remember 2006 specifically, they had 15 pay-per-views.
Awful. Was that the Raw and SmackDown split? Was that in 2006?
It was the Raw and SmackDown split plus ECW December to Dismember.
Oh, yes, one of my favorite pay-per-views.
Right, you and me both.
Eminem kicking off the show. I know my ECW.
You and me were half of the audience for that show. The buy rate was 4.
Yeah. So we were half.
So whenever those for in retrospect, for those years of getting, not only were they so many pay-per-views a year, you're getting 7 to 9 matches per show, and it's not fair to the wrestlers to say, oh man, they had bad matches. Who's gonna have a great match when you're given 4 to 6 minutes on a show? And you can't get anything in, you can't tell a story in that because they're saving it for the main event, which is fine, but you should just condense it anyway. We are in such a better era now, where you really can have really tight-knit cards. The most important guys and girls are on there, and they really can provide great action all across the card, and you're walking away from it going, that was really good. I can't wait for next month. And they don't really ever double dip. I know Nakamura and Rollins just happened last show, but
you double dip the chip, man.
That's right. It's very fresh. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we have a new World Heavyweight Champion. But I wouldn't bet on it because you know what I call gambling? Losing.
I should that.
So this should be a fun show. I appreciate it, man. Josh Isenberg always showing up and showing out here on the Juice Box. We had him last month for Payback along with Justin LeBar. Potentially we can do that type of get together again for Survivor Series, as it is a major show. We'll have to see what everybody's schedules are leading up into that. But Josh, it's been great having you on the show again, and looking forward to doing more predictions with you, man.
Can't wait, Juice. Thanks for having me, my friend.
Absolutely. Put that straw in the box at any time you want. What are you, prop comic? Bonnie K? Oh, man, this show has devolved. But as always, I'm Juice Springsteen. He is at Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter or X, however you want to look at it. I'm at Juicy Steen. This has been another great prediction show here for the PLE Fastlane in Indianapolis. Can't wait to see it. Hopefully everybody enjoys it, and I'll see you guys next week for another rousing rendition of The Juice Box.
That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.